Hi, I'm Rick Janser, Director of the ABQ BioPark, and today we're going to talk about Tasmanian Devils. With me today is Lynn Tupa, the General Manager, Zoo Manager of the ABQ BioPark, and Andrew Kelly, Managing Director of Tawana, a wildlife park in Tasmania, Australia. So, Andrew, we've been together for about 10 years. You and I have been working on getting devils into the United States. We're almost on the cusp of getting them into the U.S. Can you tell me a little bit about the history and why it's taken kind of a little longer than we anticipated for the devils to come in?
Sure, Rick, it's great to be here. Look, about 10 years ago when we were first negotiating the possibility of bringing Tasmanian devils to the United States, at that time there was unknown that the devils were facing a devastating contagious cancer affecting the wild population. The disease is known as devil facial tumour disease. And within a year of our negotiations, the Tasmanian government discovered this disease was such rampant and causing such a devastation to the wild population. There was a complete halt on any movement of devils. And also then it took another 2 years in a partnership with the Tasmanian government, with the Zoo Aquarium Association, to form an insurance population of Tasmanian devils. So some selected zoos in Australia worked cooperatively and trained in husbandry processes, because devils were a difficult, complex animal, and that insurance program has been very successful, to the point that the Tasmanian government has now decided it's appropriate to send Tasmanian devils overseas. And the great news is Albuquerque, of course, is one of only 2 zoos outside of Australia that will be receiving devils in part of that insurance program.
Right. And one of the requirements for us getting the devils is that we had somebody that's trained on handling, both during the breeding season and the weaning season. So the requirement was for us to send somebody over to your facility to be trained. And that was Lynn Tupa. So kind of go over what you learned first, in March when you went, and then you just got back a couple of days ago from the second part.
Yeah, the first session in March, we dealt a lot with females coming into estrus. So there's a lot of subtle little signs to notice when they're getting ready for breeding. And so we did a lot of hands-on, looking at pouches to see the changes that go on there, and you wouldn't think there's much of a difference, but when you looked at a few different females, you could really see some changes, and they also get some changes on their neck, and their hair stands up a little different, and of course their behavior changes. And then also we did some introductions to see if we can get some 2 pairs together. At the time it wasn't successful. She wasn't really interested in that male. But then we also did some other just hands-on work with the devils, and learning how to feed them and teaching them to kind of be a little more interactive with the keeper staff there, and so to make them a good public display animal. On this recent trip, we talked a little bit more about weaning the babies off of mom. At that time they were about 7 to 8 months old, and then the different steps that Andrew goes through in getting them away from mom, what type of diet to feed the youngsters, and we also saw a couple that they were hand raising, and so we got to see. So that's a little more difficult than some of our animals here. Just on their diet. So it was really a nice, well-rounded training program, although it's amazing how much, they're very specific, and there's a lot of requirements for devils, and it's amazing that, Andrews teaches a really good course, because you think it's easy, just put animals together, and it's not.
Now, when you went to the training course afterwards, we would hope to have the devils by November 20th, but a little permitting issue. And you went to Healesville, which is the facility that's holding our devils right now. How did they manage them as opposed to what Andrew does at his facility?
Well, the ones that we're getting are kind of, their behavior is more like a true wild devil. So they're nocturnal animals, in the sense where they're sleeping during the day. They come out and they eat at night. And at Andrew's place, because it's a very interactive park for his guests to come and meet devils. You see his devils, and they're out and they're active. And ours are a little shy, so we are going to have to work with them on building their confidence, being out with the public and the staff. So we'll try some different techniques that Andrew has mentioned to us.
Okay. Andrew, you've seen our facility. How do you anticipate doing the introductions when, Lynn mentioned that these devils haven't been with other animals? What's the process that we will probably have to go through once the devils arrive on American soil? Well,
because they have, as Lynn mentioned, that these devils that will be arriving will be quite shy and timid and haven't socialised with other devils. So the plan will be to work these devils, to get them together, to see them socialise, to be able to understand the communication and the interaction between devils, because, it might frighten. If without Lynn coming to Tasmania and these devils arriving, I think any keeper or person would be too frightened of what they're seeing, because devils are an agonistic species, which means that when they communicate, they sound literally like they're screaming and yelling and swearing at each other, and they interact quite aggressively. But it's a part of their natural socialisation process. So when they come to Albuquerque, we've got to work through a process where we get them to actually socialise, and also to get more trust with their human handlers and their keepers, because at this stage they don't have that human interaction either. So it's going to be a very interesting time, but I'm pretty confident that the facility is excellent. The facility, of course, is a world-class facility for devils, and that straight away lends it to be able to manage the animals in an appropriate way that can bring them together within, as quick as we can, basically.
Okay, I was down in Tasmania a few years back, and we went through kind of the handling of a devil. Kind of go through how you would pick up a devil to check its coat, weigh it, and whatnot.
Well, I might use this prop here, Rick, if that's okay. It makes it easier for me. The marsupial doesn't have a tail like a dog or a cat, so that the tail of the marsupial is stiff. So it doesn't hurt the marsupial to grab the base of the tail there, and Lynn would know how to do this, and you slide your hand underneath here, and so you've got the animal up this way. Lift the head up so the head's higher than the backside. That way you can use a visual, and of course it's a lot bigger than this. This would be a young sized devil, about weaning age actually, wouldn't it? Mm-hmm. So the handling is quite comfortable for the devil, and then you can actually talk to it. So there's a language that they've got, and so you start to use that language back to the animal, put them down, because that's almost a gentle feel to them. So once they've had a few experiences of this gentle feel, rather than the sort of approach, the way they communicate with each other, then they start to get more comfortable with being handled.
Okay, great. So a typical breeding season, how many offspring are born to a devil, Lynn?
Around 40 are born, but only the first 4 that make it into the pouch. There's only 4 teats in her pouch, will hopefully attach and then make it through the whole process of nursing and coming out of the pouch.
It is worth mentioning, when they're born, that 40, they're half the size of a match, or 3 millimetres in total length is the size of a newborn Tasmanian devil. So they don't look like a baby animal. You don't see like a joey kangaroo or joey wombat. The baby devils are so small, they're almost so embryonic. And the female gets into a position like this and lifts the back up there like this, and the tail is a tripod. And then the fluid comes down from the cloaca into the pouch, and these young tiny little things swim down through the fluid into the pouch. And it is the first 4 that attach to the teat that have the chance of developing. But it doesn't mean the mothers have 4 each time they breed. Mm-hmm. They might only have 1, which is rare, but they might usually have 2 or 3. So a full contingency of 4 is, about an 80% chance.
Oh, great.
It's probably worth mentioning, though, too, Rick, the devils that are coming here from Healesville are already 3-year-olds and females, 2-year-old males, which will make it quite difficult to expect breeding to occur with that aged female. They have a short lifespan in the wild of only 5 or 6, in a captive context up to 7 years. But the breeding cycle starts at 2 for females, and 2, 3, 4, and usually if you don't get them breeding that first, when they're two, the chance of them breeding is less and less. Breeding of devils in captivity has been very poor over the years. It's my facility that's been bred 14 generations of captive bred devils, and that's why the training program operates from my facility in Tasmania, and now we've now sort of expanded the population in Australia. The devils coming to Albuquerque are initially here for advocacy, educational purpose, and to raise awareness and possibly funding towards the Save the Devil program in Tasmania. But if we're able to breed these devils, it's going to be a great bonus.
Great. Well, thank you all for joining us today, and thank Andrew and Lynn for joining us, and hope to see you out at the ABQ BioPark